Welcome to Morning Combos with Ali Sheen.
Good morning and welcome to Morning Convos. I'm your host, Ali Sheen. Glad to be here with you once again. On the show today, I will answer the question, why is it so hard to leave the Democratic Plantation? To answer this question, we must first explain what the Democratic Plantation is. Its birth was in 1964 when Lyndon B. Johnson declared war on poverty and introduced the Great Society, which was a domestic program that Johnson publicly claimed was for reducing poverty. But ballooning welfare rolls says otherwise. The Democrats have no problem with increasing the rolls. In fact, President Barack Obama saw adding millions of food stamp recipients as an accomplishment. I don't see it that way. Shouldn't welfare success be determined by the number of people leaving it? The answer is yes if you're anyone but a Democrat. Because Democrats need as many people as possible on their plantation. On the Democratic plantation, your housing, medical care, food, child care expenses, transportation, and utilities can all be subsidized by the government, taxpayers, as long as you don't work, and if you're a woman, remain unwed and don't work. If lifting people out of poverty was really their goal, then they would have incentivized getting off of welfare instead of penalizing them for it. For example, let's say a woman, let's call her Mary, who has one child and has Section 8 welfare. All her rent is paid for by Section 8 welfare. Let's say she finds a job that pays $35,000 a year. As the rule stands now, Mary will be dropped from welfare and Section 8 for what they claim is a high income. She will be responsible for all her bills. Her safety net will be gone. She will make only about $3,000 a month, but the average two-bedroom apartment outside of Manhattan will cost her about half of that. When you add utilities, food, transportation, and miscellaneous household expenses, the most modest estimate has her monthly cost at $3,200 a month. Odds are that Mary will be back on welfare. Democrats reward those that don't try to get off of welfare and punish those that do. A gradual reduction in benefits would be the smartest way to encourage people to get off of welfare and reduce the amount of people needing to return. If the Democrats' motive were altruistic, their goal would then be to have no one on welfare. Think about it. Think about the psychological impact of a single mother that sees the government as a savior. The government essentially takes the place of the man in her household. She raises her children, especially her girls, with the mindset that welfare is how you begin your adult life. I know a lot of people that were told when they turned 18 to go to welfare. Welfare for millions of Americans is a generational problem, and the Democrats exploit that. Keep in mind, when a person applies for welfare, whether it's cash, food stamps, Medicaid, utility assistance, heat, anything or any combination of those, you are given a voter registration form. What party do you think benefits from that? Especially when the Democrats are quick to say that the Republicans want to take your benefits. It's scare tactics like these that feeds into the negative impression those on the Democratic plantation have of Republicans. They see the Republicans as the enemy. The Democrats they see as their hero, their only line of defense against the evil Republicans. And what do they get for their loyalty to the Democratic Party? Those on the plantation receive not only the measly scraps the Democrats give them, they also, as a special bonus, free of charge like they like it, they get poor schools, high crime, rampant drug use, poor housing, and urban blight. According to an article online by John C. Goodman of the Independent Institute, he says, virtually every major city in the country is controlled by Democrats. In every one of those cities, most low-income black families are forced to send their children to the worst public schools. They are forced to live in the worst housing, and they are subjected to the worst environmental hazards. The more liberal the city, the worse things are. New York City has the most segregated schools in the country and some of the worst public schools. California has the highest number of homeless people in the nation, although per capita, homelessness is actually higher in two other liberal states, New York and Hawaii. In San Francisco, the number of people who are homeless, hungry, drug addicted, and poverty stricken has become a national disgrace. This is the intent of the Democrats. They want a loyal base ignorant to the fact that the Democrats are responsible for the ghettos they live in and the reason it's hard to get out of them. Quoting French politician Maximilien de Robespierre, the secret of freedom lies in educating people, whereas the secret of tyranny is keeping them ignorant. And that's why it's so hard to leave the Democratic Plantation. Those on the plantation don't see the evils of it. For them, it's just their way of life. The welfare recipients of today are not like those in the 60s. They have luxuries like TVs, smartphones, laptops, tablets, video game systems, and their bills paid for by the taxpayers. For them, life is good. Brainwashed by the Democrats, they believe that their only way to retain that life that they're accustomed to is to keep the Democrats in power. Democrats have financial and psychological control over the slaves on their plantation. I have nothing but respect for those that have escaped the plantation, that took a chance and invested in themselves and took back the freedom that they voluntarily gave to the Democrats. But that's it for this episode of Morning Convos. I'm your host, Ali Sheen. Until next time, enjoy the rest of your morning.